I grew up in Lafayette and Baton Rouge. Lafayette is this vibrant, artistic, cultural scene where music is super prevalent, and you go dance in Zydeco. And then also in New Orleans, like being on the streets and seeing those jazz bands that blow musicians out of the water. And they're just like boys in sweatpants and t-shirts just hanging out on the street corners with this heritage of sound. The thing that makes Louisiana special, it's just layers and layers and layers of friendship and of community connection that's really, really deep. I remember the first time I sang on stage. I was 3 years old. I was a camel in the Christmas church play. It was the first moment that I realized I want to be a singer when I grow up, that kind of thing. And I remember getting off stage and telling my parents, like, I want to be this when I grow up. The thing about being on stage that compelled me that young was I knew there was some sort of expression that came alive in me, and I knew that I had finally tapped into the best way of expressing it. Like, looking back, I can see where my wheels were spinning. What was it that I loved about this? What was it? And I think that's what it was. I found the place where I communicate the fullness of the expression I'm trying to give, the tone I'm trying to speak in. My first song that I ever wrote was when I was 11 years old. And I remember my parents put me to sleep. They're like, okay, good night, Lauren, you know, standard. And I woke up, like got out of bed. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And I just sat on my bedroom floor writing. And I walk in and I'm like, I have a song to show you. And they're like, what are you doing awake? We put you to bed like hours ago. And I walk in and I said, I'm gonna sing it. And they're like, okay, sing for us. What do you have? And I stood on the fireplace ledge and performed my first song for them. So I would just sit in my bedroom up late at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever, writing. If I was, you know, having a hard time with any relational anything, I would write about it. And just the pen to the paper kind of became this cathartic space for me. None of it was good. My gosh, I found things like, I have notebooks of stuff when I was a kid writing, and it's like, this is awful. I wish I could say it was like an Adele situation where she's like 5 and she's written like the best love song ever, but that's not my case. I was sick when I turned 15. I got this illness and was placed on homebound for 2 years. At that time, I mean, I would just sing all over the house. And my mom came to me and kind of like to keep me out of depression and keep me like with something to stimulate me. She was like, hey, what do you think about starting voice lessons? I was like, oh man, that would be amazing. Let's try it. And so I was 16 years old when I did that, and I realized more than technique, more than anything like that, it was really just a place of confidence where I was learning how to approach the stage with confidence and security versus fear and trembling. Cytomegalovirus was an autoimmune disorder, and a lot of the healing of that resurfaced actually in the making of this record, which is super ironic personally, but I feel like I had to get to a place where that wasn't the thing that consumed me. It didn't overtake me. Really, the recording process was walking out that season. The cathartic thing for me was learning the difference between where I take an experience and where I'm just simply a mouthpiece, and how both of those are equivalently beautiful. So, stepping back just a second, I remember having written for about a year, and I got to this place of burnout 1 year in, and there was so many marks missed, if you will. Where are you now when darkness seems to I took about a year off. I went back home to Louisiana to just remind myself of who I was, where I came from, Where are my roots? And in that awareness, in that understanding, I'm finally able to say, like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, it's too deep in my veins to get lost. It's too deep for me to lose that, for me to love people to the depth that I love people, for me to have that joy to the depth that I have joy. Like, is there a cost? Absolutely, for sure. There's a weight to all of it. But it doesn't mean that it is overcome by the tension of expectation. I had finished a season where I had to fight for joy. Out of that season of difficulty, arriving to that place became the record. That's what the making of this record is for me. It's having the experience, breathing it, letting it live in my bones, and then expressing it. And hopefully someone else out there connects to that as well. I feel like the past few years have been me discovering that joy again. And so I would love for people to take that from this record, to be in touch with their childlike nature again, but also for them to experience joy that they might not have felt in years. As I started writing, that became Look Up Child. In the moments when we don't have it nailed, when we don't have it figured out, what is the one thing that we could do? Look up. And that's what I want people to leave with. I want people to leave with the hope and the joy that comes upon that simple action of looking up.
Hey, look up, child. Hey, look up, child.